Welcome to 91 Reasons, a pop culture fueled rocket into the far reaches of nerd culture. Featuring your hosts, Jeff, Rachel, Luna, Austin, and Josie. It's Tucker time.
Robert De Niro is a bounty hunter.
Your mother ever teach you how to talk nice to people and not shoot at them?
Charles Grodin is an accountant who embezzled $15 million from the mob.
It is truly in your best interest to just relax.
I'm totally relaxed.
I want this guy taken out, and I want him taken out fast.
The mob wants him dead. The FBI want him alive.
I'm going to bring him into federal court. Do I make myself understood?
These sunglasses, they're really nice. Are they government issued, or do all you guys go like to the same store to get them?
And his bail bondsman wants him in L.A. in 72 hours.
They can't fly. They also suffer from acrophobia and claustrophobia.
I'll tell you what, if you don't cooperate, you're going to suffer from fistophobia.
Travo has a funny way of bringing people together.
Oh, you're going to outrace the police car? You're going to outrace the police car?
Jack, where are you?
I'm in Boise, Idaho. Wait a minute, I'm in Anchorage, Alaska.
Why would you do that?
Oh, you enjoy yourself. This is my room, and that's your room. Good night. I was somewhere between Toledo and Cleveland.
Oh, no, come on. Cigarettes are killers.
Who the hell were those guys? Those are hired killers back there.
I can't take this.
Hired to kill who? Hired to kill this guy.
You had this guy, what, 4 days?
Look, you got 5 hours left. What are you doing?
You promise to let me go this time?
Open that door here, next light, Joe.
Remember me? Who was that?
Agent Foster Grant.
You're all right, Jack.
Yeah, well, you're all right, too.
Give us a kiss.
From the director of Beverly Hills Cop.
What is your plan?
You guys look like you do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
Midnight Run.
All right, so how many years in the making is this episode? Because I started doing movies throughout the years. I started in 1989. I went through all of it, and I thought it'll be like one episode. It'll be like 45 minutes. It turned into like 4 hours of all these episodes. And then I thought, okay, whenever there's a lull, I'll sit down and I'll do movies of the year. So I'll move into 1988. The problem is I hit snags, and the snags were Coming to America, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and then this has been the biggest, like, 2-year snag of all, Midnight Run, a classic. And every time I mention that I'm going to sit and do Midnight Run on the show, I get people who go, you can't do it without us. We have to be here. So this has been forever in the planning, I should welcome to the show, 91 Reasons. I'm Jeff Tucker, blah, blah, blah. I have my good friends, Adrian Romo.
Hello, how's it going?
David Carrero.
Hello, how are you tonight?
People I've known forever. And one of the bonds we have is talking shorthand using dialogue from Midnight Run.
Oh, exactly.
So what is it about this movie that is... what is it? It's hard to describe why this movie is so good.
I think it's the perfect buddy picture, right?
Exactly.
It's the perfect road buddy picture. And the chemistry.
It's chemistry, right?
Yeah, and it's De Niro, to me, it's De Niro at his finest.
What about you, Romo?
So, I mean, I know when we first met with basically this movie, once we found out, like, oh my God, you've seen
it's like a
Midnight
private
Run?
little club, right?
And then we would just sit in your office and we would just talk about it.
Because there are movies that come out that are watershed movies. You know, Roger Rabbit, Coming to America, Die Hard. You mentioned those movies, everybody knows. This is the kind of movie that most people will go, oh, I think maybe I've heard of Midnight. Is he in the Mob movie?
Yeah.
You're like, no, let me watch. Let's put this movie on. Yeah. You know, because the only way it's such a good movie. So what happened was, I was at the Grove about 2 weeks ago, and they were having a big 40% off sale, and they had Midnight Run on Blu-ray, which is incredible. It's not the kind of movie that Target's going to stock.
It took forever for it to come out on Blu-ray.
It's a deep a catalog film.
Heck, when I bought this on DVD, I bought it at high price because I couldn't find it. I bought it online.
I paid $30 for mine. That when I switched from VHS to DVD, there was like a handful of about 20, 25 movies that are just that I have to have them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, when DVDs came out, were not. Back to the Future wasn't available. The Star Wars movies weren't available. But there were a lot of weird catalog films. But the rub is, they were all $30.
Yep.
I paid $30 for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, for Defending Your Life, and Midnight Run.
And for Bare Bones.
Bare Bones.
The movie, maybe you get a trailer, and that's about it.
And it's just a port over.
Right.
They don't clean it up or anything. Right. So when I saw the Blu-ray, I said, I have to pick this up. And you know what? It has some grain because of the way it was made,
exactly.
But it did look brighter and clearer than anything I've ever seen.
To the point where you could see the leather jacket.
You could see his jacket pores,
you could see the
right?
characteristics on the jacket.
Reflections in the mirror, and what I didn't really notice was the reflections of the characters off the glass on the train.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that is totally clear.
And we noticed Joust, the video game Joust.
Yeah, that's right. And now we all want to go play it.
Right.
That's right. That game is over. So, Midnight Run is a 1988 film directed by Martin Brest, who had just come off of, not just, but he had previously directed Beverly Hills Cop, which is a massive hit. So he was able to pretty much write his own ticket, and his ticket was he's going to make this bounty hunter movie with Robert De Niro, and he used his considerable weight to cast Charles Grodin, who at the time is not a box office name.
Right.
Nobody. He's a character actor.
A little actor. Yeah. He was said in the DVD.
In the DVD, like a little known actor, which is funny.
Charles Grodin.
So it tells the story of Jack Walsh, who is a Los Angeles-based bounty hunter who used to be a cop in Chicago. And he's going to do a quick, easy pickup of this guy named Jonathan Mardukas. And in the bounty hunter business, an easy pickup is what? A midnight run. It's a midnight run, for Christ's sake, he says.
Yep.
So he's going to do this last bit. He's going to get out of the business. And, of course, the last one is never easy.
Right.
And everybody, from the feds to the mob, is after this one guy. Some of them want him dead. Others want him to testify in court, right?
Yeah.
So the stage is set for what is basically, like you said, Romo, a road picture.
It is. It's to me, it's an R-rated Crosby and
Hope and Crosby,
road movie.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And that's what the chemistry is on that.
Except there's no love interest in anywhere.
No.
If it were made today, the Duke would have to fall in love with like a waitress or something who would have a heart of gold and drive them for a few
Or she'd be the prostitute in Vegas. Or
that's exactly
on
right.
the way through, right? Yeah.
But this is definitely a product of when it was made, late 87, early 88. They smoke on the bus.
They smoked everywhere.
They smoke on the plane.
The bathroom.
You got payphones.
Yes.
You're drinking Miller High Life.
Yeah, but it also harkens back to when you could have a story like this where two guys are on the run and they can slip through America unnoticed. The only time they get noticed is when they pop up and do something stupid.
Sure. Yep. Because even in the airport, Marvin's got a gun in the airport. They're wandering through the airport with no problem, right? We live in a very different world now.
Different world. Cell phones change everything. Social media changes everything. So stripping away all of that, you get this really bare bones, we have to get this guy from New York to LA in 5 days. And like you said, that's all just superfluous, because what really counts are those scenes between De Niro and Grodin that are textbook, like, this is how you do comedy in movies.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? Here's the thing. There's a lot of cursing, but there's nobody takes a crap, nobody vomits, nobody gets their schnickel caught in their zipper, right? None of the tropes of, if it was made today, he would get diarrhea.
Right.
It would have to be
way over the top.
There's nothing gratuitous.
The way they're speaking is the way you would think gritty people in that line of business on both sides would be talking.
Exactly.
They're not censoring themselves. They're just talking the way they talk.
And the characterizations come from immediately getting the differences between the two.
Yeah.
Like you said, Dennis Farina plays Jimmy Serrano, the mob boss. And what were you saying? Like, he's in Vegas for what? There was a reason?
He was filming Crime Story, which was a TV show at the time. And so they played to his schedule, and they filmed all of the scenes in Vegas because he was already there.
He was already there.
It was convenient for him, and they could work around his other schedule.
So he's in one part of town as a cop.
Yeah.
He goes over across
1950s.
Right.
Goes across town, and he's the mob guy. That's good acting. And he had just come from being a retired police officer, right? But the way you were saying, he has 25 different ways he says the F word.
Exactly.
And each one's different and funnier than the next, right?
He's the best guy that says the F word ever.
Oh, my God.
I could watch him all day just saying the F word to me,
Just like De Niro says, you son of a bitch, right? He says it like a dozen different ways,
exactly.
and every which way is funny.
Here's the thing. We're sitting here watching this movie. We just watched it, and... how many times have you, David? How many times have you seen the movie?
At least 40, 50 times,
right?
Maybe even more.
It's got to be more than that because I have it on my computer, I have it on my phone.
This is what you call.
This
is a comfort movie.
Oh, exactly.
You put it on when you're doing stuff.
Yes.
And you don't have to always watch it, but you know what's going on. Right. You know that you can talk to the dialogue or anticipate the dialogue.
It's like this, Tombstone, Hook. Those movies have always been in my catalog.
Hook, that's a strange one.
Oh, you don't understand when I first time I watched Hook in the theater. I could not stop smiling.
Have you ever heard the way that Hoskins and Hoffman played Captain Hook and Mr. Smee?
No.
You can actually find the article. If you Google it, they played them as an old gay couple.
That makes sense.
And I read that and I went, oh my God, that is brilliant!
Yeah.
How brilliant is that?
Scene where they're
stop me, Smee.
Exactly.
Stop me.
Don't stop me. You're committing suicide. Yeah. Oh, that totally makes sense. And that's one of the three in this movie. In fact, when we were talking about, okay, we finally got the date. We're gonna do this. What did I do? I went straight to my.
You watched it. You watched it that night. And I thought about doing that. And I said, no, I'm gonna wait because I haven't seen it in a little while, and I want to relive it again.
It's funny you say that because I'm in here going, well, I really want to watch that. Oh, but they're coming over to watch it.
Right.
But I could watch it again.
Exactly.
But what I did was I went online and kind of did some more research to kind of read up about it and try to find some tidbits.
That's what I did,
And there's not a lot out there. I mean, there's a couple of pages, but there's not a lot.
Well, because again, it wasn't a big release.
No. Nope.
It was just another... nowadays, every movie's a tentpole.
Right.
Every movie's a franchise, cinematic universe. Very few small movies get out. But back in the day, they released... Every Friday, there was another movie you could go see that was just a movie.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one of those, and I'm not belittling it by saying, it's just a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be
it
a
wasn't
smash.
like in the day where, 1 week you've got the Avengers coming out, and then 2 weeks later you've got Spider-Man coming out, right?
Exactly.
And because 5 weeks later after this movie comes out, Die Hard comes out, which is another film that I don't think people expected it to be what it turned out to be.
No, Die Hard was supposed to be a goof because that was the guy from Moonlighting, and it was named after a battery.
And it probably became the greatest action movie of all time, if not one of them.
Yeah, yes. Is it the greatest action movie of all time, Die Hard?
That's close, but I mean, it's the one that now becomes Die Hard at an airport, Die Hard in the jungle.
I mean,
I guess if you put me on the spot, I would alternate between Die Hard and Terminator 2 as the greatest. Just because of the set pieces.
Yeah.
But I was saying about Midnight Run is that I've seen it so many times, like we said, but we're watching it and each of us is laughing like an idiot.
Oh, exactly. Like we haven't heard it before.
It's the subtleties and the reactions and in the way the dialogue is, and then small lines and small dialogue that happens, and it's just funny. It's delivered to perfection.
It's there are so few of them.
Yeah.
Perfect movie.
Correct.
Perfect. There's fireworks going off, folks.
It's the
perfect movie.
Yeah.
And that's hard because usually there's something wonky, something here. As far like we were talking earlier, there's like one or two lines that I get agitated.
Your favorite agitated line.
Where he goes, "Are you in the 8th grade?"
Exactly.
But like if that's it, it's a perfect movie.
You're nitpicking at that point.
Oh, I'm totally nitpicking because there's nothing to pick on it about.
Right.
Roma was saying earlier, like this is one of those greatly scripted. George Gallo wrote it, and he sets up everything in like the first 10 pages.
Oh, exactly. Before even the credits come, you see De Niro coming up, and you get to see him trying to open up the door. So you get to see how he does his process. Eventually, then you see Marvin show up with the car, swings the car door open. You get to see all the little things that they start doing, and it builds up that you see these two characters already. You don't know who they are yet, but they're shooting guns at somebody. And are they cops? Are they bad guys? You look at them, you still don't know which one's the good guy, which one's the bad guy.
But it's setting up the relationship.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
For what's going to come for the next 2 hours.
And then if the running joke, Marvin, watch out, and he turns and he gets hit, which is throughout the entire movie. So all that gets set up within the first, maybe even 3 minutes of the movie before the credit starts rolling.
Yeah, it's good writing. It's good setup. It's how you make a good movie.
Correct.
And like you said, it isn't until they're slapping the cuffs on this guy that he goes, "You guys ain't cops."
No, we're bounty hunters, or no, we're ballet dancers.
Yeah, your mother teach you to react to strangers, not shoot at them. So it's this movie with De Niro as the hardened bounty hunter because he's been forced to do this. He's been forced off the police force. We've got Grodin is the accountant for the mob with the heart of gold, steals all the money, gives it to charity, right? Yep. Doesn't think he's going to get caught. We've got Jimmy Serrano. He's the mob guy, right? Yaphet Kotto is the FBI guy who's trying to bring him in on federal charges, Serrano. And then I think the other big character in the film is 1980s America, which doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And we were all having such a good time watching the movie, looking at the background, the video games, the architecture, the Vegas Strip.
The Vegas Strip.
Which does not exist anymore.
It's totally...
downtown Vegas, too.
Yeah.
Everything that we see in this movie has been blown up.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, with the exception of Bally's. That's still there. Yeah. And the Flamingo is there.
Yeah,
everything else is gone.
Last week, somebody took a picture. The Y had burnt out.
Yes.
And it just said balls. and like, it's Vegas. You'd think they'd have somebody in 10 minutes out to fix that. And instead they're like, oh, yeah, it says balls.
Well, it's Vegas, It's...
Yeah. Oh, my God. Although, in front of Bally's, they put a mall.
Yeah.
Which is so ugly.
Yeah.
So ugly.
It is.
But this Vegas is the smoke-filled, mob-run, dune Stardust.
The ones that my parents used to take me to. Even though I was under 21, like being 15, 16 years old, going to Circus. That's the Vegas I remember walking up and down from.
This was your $2 steak dinner Vegas. $2 steak dinner, because you can't get that anymore.
Isn't it funny to grow up with the $2 steak dinner, the $1.85 steak and egg breakfast, the 99-cent shrimp cocktail, and you go there now, and good luck.
Don't exist. And you can't even put a quarter in a machine anymore.
They don't want your money. They want your credit card. Nope. They want your credits.
Yeah.
They want your paper money.
I asked them all, is the $1, 1 pound hot dog still at Slots of Fun? It's not there anymore.
Not there anymore.
Like, oh, that's tears.
Slots of Fun used to have the $1 hot dog, strawberry shortcake.
Yep, that's where you went.
All that stuff, right? The banana split.
Yeah.
It's all. Remember coin cups?
Oh yeah. I've got a couple. I just came back from Laughlin last year, and what's their version of the Pioneer Club. They still have real slot machines that you put dollar coins in, and they've got the cups. And of course, I snagged about 3 or 4.
You gotta get the cups, right?
Yeah,
it used to be one of those things where, like before cell phones, because everybody carries a cell phone now. In Vegas, you carried the cup,
exactly,
and it was about 8 pounds.
Yeah, and hopefully you carried 3 or 4 of them if you were lucky, right?
But know where they're at all times.
Yeah.
But isn't it funny to think you would lug that around?
Yeah.
You'd never You've been so conditioned now with paper that. If they handed you a cup of nickels, you'd go, I'm not carrying that.
Yeah, exactly.
Look how coddled we've become.
I've seen 7-year-old women carry 4 buckets with a cigarette in their mouth, right?
How are you?
Walking down the plaza, Yeah. Those were the good days.
Hold one of my cups, David. I'm going to the bathroom.
Watch my machine for me. I'll be right back.
And the other thing you were saying is that I never got to go to McCarran Airport the way it's pictured in the film, where there's the 2 levels. Serrano's got the disc. I mean, I would have reenacted the whole thing, right?
Exactly. But it was hard to. We went flying from Long Beach for my friends. I think this was a bachelor party, and we went down there. So we landed in McCarran, and sure enough, we're walking down the top part of McCarran. I'm going, oh my God, this is where Midnight Run was made.
That's great.
And you could just totally see it was painted the same way. Yeah, I would love to have recited those lines, but
can't do it now.
No.
You get arrested.
I think you're crazy.
It's so funny how times have changed, right?
Now, did you watch this film in the theater when it came out?
No. I wish I had.
My introduction, you did?
I did.
My introduction to it was, making the weekly trip to the video store, and it was just a mom and pop place down the street. And I remember seeing it on the shelf and reading the back of it and going, oh, it's by the director of Beverly Hills Cop. I love Beverly Hills Cop. I should rent this. But for whatever reason, I didn't get to it. And then had HBO, and one night I flipping through it and I got into watch, and I caught it about halfway through. And I became so engrossed in it. And you know how HBO runs movies the whole month, like every other night, right? It's on, and I think I must have watched that movie 10, 15 times that month. Yeah. Because I was like, how did I miss this? How did I not see this coming prior to now?
I know the feeling, right? Because we were talking earlier that just the year prior was The Untouchables with De Niro. And he looked unrecognizable as Capone, right?
Yeah.
But I think what happened was I saw The Untouchables pretty late in the game on video.
Yes, and I saw that in the movie theater too.
Yeah, you're ahead of the curve on that. Because I was such a dork. I only watched space movies and cartoon movies.
You were watching the Oscar caliber film.
No,
Me and you are very much alike every time when I watch a show, and whenever you say, someone's yelling at me at the, right now at the radio, that's me.
Yeah,
that's me in my car listening to 91 Reasons and yelling at you because I got the answer to it all.
Yeah.
I went to the movies every Friday, Saturday night in my high school life.
I did too, but you and I we're in different theaters.
Yeah, exactly, and it would be like 8 of us. And the normal situation was like my parents would be bowling, and if you ever know me, my buddy Chuck, his parents were bowling with my parents. So we'd go to his garage, and the normal reason we would go drinking, we'd play some pool, we'd go to a midnight movie, and every Friday, Saturday, that's what we would do. And so we saw all of those movies. So I saw Untouchables, I saw that at the theater, and that's I think the one that slowly got me to like De Niro's my favorite actor of all time, and I think that's the movie that did it. So Midnight Run comes out.
It takes one of those entry-level De Niro's because you don't start with Raging Bull.
Well, I did. Here's the second. I saw Raging Bull in the theaters.
Wow.
What was that, 1980?
80, yeah.
10-year-old Adrian with his parents, because we don't have babysitters, us Mexican kids.
Hit me with the refrigerator, Joey. Hit me.
Just take us.
Hit me, Joey. Hit me.
Exactly. Close your eyes now at this moment. Don't look. Don't look at this moment. You're doing this with your
Could have been worse.
hands.
Could have been Taxi Driver.
It could have been Taxi Driver, yeah. No, that was the one where I had to backtrack and relive. But I remember seeing actually. Yeah. I loved the movie, and so with Untouchables, I went straight to De Niro, anything he did, and so the next one was this one, and I was like, well, we got to go see it, and loved the hell out of this movie.
Yeah, I think I watched The Untouchables like with a group of guys, because it's one of those things where I was like, I probably wouldn't have picked that on my own, but in a group of guys, I'll sit and watch it, because I had a friend, John, who would never steer me wrong. That his house was the first time we all sat and watched The Shining.
Yeah.
Movies that are like, this wasn't on my radar, but this is amazing, right? So he puts on The Untouchables, and I think that sort of parlayed that the next year, when Midnight Run came out on video, I was working the video store.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where De Niro is a consistent video guy.
Yeah.
You can't have 5 copies. You have to have 20 copies of Midnight Run because everybody's going to want it, right? So I thought, well, I'll check it out. I don't. They're free. I would work there. What's the big deal, right? I remember putting that cassette on and just becoming so lost in the film, and mainly because I'm a nerd, it was Charles Grodin.
Yeah.
I'd never seen somebody inhabit a character like that, because his Mardukas is such a nagging old man, annoying, but he never once looks at the camera and goes, "I'm just playing."
Oh, exactly.
His Duke is fully rooted in his reality, right?
He's committed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it all plays into his character, because you could believe a guy like this ripping off the mob and not thinking, well, I won't get caught.
Yeah.
I'll take a little money and I'll get out of town. Yeah. And he didn't make it out of town, right?
He didn't make it out of town. No.
So I remember, and I'm gonna throw on a back end on this episode about my stupid Charles Grodin stuff. But I went and got Charles Grodin. He had written a book at almost like the exact same time called "It Would Be So Nice If You Weren't Here," and I just became engrossed in this guy who, because remember we watched this making of, and they go, little known actor Charles Grodin.
Exactly.
He would have gone on to do Beethoven and Beethoven 2, and are you serious?
He had some stuff beforehand.
Prior to Midnight Run, he was in The Heartbreak Kid, Seems Like Better Times, Heaven Can Wait, Movers and Shakers, King Kong. Yeah. He was on TV in a million TV shows. He's just a guy who told Paramount no. They wanted to cast him in The Graduate. It's the part that went to Dustin Hoffman, right? This would have made him a megastar, and he held out for more money, right? So I'll get to my Grodin stuff later.
At this time, too, he has a talk show going on, too, right? Doesn't he have a talk show
This is before the talk show, yeah.
Before then, okay.
The talk show came around 91 or 92,
Okay, so just
MSNBC talk show,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I only know that because I desperately wanted to see the talk show,
remember the talk
and I didn't have cable.
Yeah.
Where we lived on beach, we couldn't get it. There was no cable.
Yeah, they hadn't run the line yet.
Right,
yeah.
no cable line. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do cable here. You're not zoned
all
for
through
it.
the 80s, I never had cable until maybe 89 or 90.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is Ridgemont, David. You want romance? We can't even get cable TV here.
Even La Habra had cable. Oh my god.
Yeah, we had cable in Norwalk, but not in Buena
We had
Park.
on TV or select TV.
Well, we had
was
that
it.
too, and then eventually Century.
Was it?
I think it was Century, right?
Century, I think
Cable?
was the big one around here.
Yeah.
The little brown box on the
Exactly.
TV.
A stolen box, but you know.
So I started watching this movie over and over again. It just became one of my go-to movies because this is before Back to the Future 2 or 3. So I don't have 3 Back to the Future movies to put on all time, right?
Exactly.
So I got Midnight Run on Laserdisc, the flipper Laserdisc, right? And I would I had my my TV hooked up to my giant stereo. The speakers were 4.5 feet high.
Your rack stereo?
And I would crank that, bum, 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 and I would just be like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm watching this great movie on my crappy TV, you know?
Yeah.
And something about Midnight Run, like a lot of movies, and the reason they resonate is I say this a lot, they're like friends.
Yeah.
When I put that on, I'm hanging out with the 2 guys I like hanging out with.
There's something very comforting about that.
Yeah.
Very
And there's so many, like, as we're watching the movie, God bless us, we know the movie so well that we can talk over the movie. Nobody goes, shut up.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So the first thing you said was you love the shot where he goes, I will shoot you through the glass.
Yep. It makes sense because you never see that. You know, somebody pointing a gun at somebody in front of a glass. You know, you think there's a barrier, so I can't shoot.
Right.
There's a barrier. It's going to bounce off. It's going to ricochet. No, it's glass. So it makes sense when he's all, don't move. I'm going to shoot you through the glass. And to me, it's like, that is smart. That is a smart person telling you, don't move. I can still kill you if I wanted to.
Yeah, well, I think in the making of this movie, De Niro said he spent a couple of weeks with a bounty hunter guy, getting some tips and trying to learn how to. What do they do really, right?
I think he spent time with the police department too.
The police department too, because it's a dual character.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Grodin called up an accountant and asked, "How do you embezzle money?" And that was the beginning and the end of his research, right?
Right. And Grodin wasn't their first choice, right?
No, there was a laundry list, right?
Robin Williams. And the most audacious one, right, is Cher, right?
Could you imagine watching this movie with Cher?
The Duchess?
They would have made it a love story.
Yeah.
They would have got together at the end.
Yeah.
The last scene would have been in the coffee shop.
Right.
Which would have made sense because there's part of the movie where he's thinking he wants to get back with his wife and he goes, maybe it's not going to happen. That would have killed it if they would have had Cher and turned this into a love story. I think.
Oh, it would have been.
Well, you wouldn't have had you had some banter, but it would have been different.
Yeah.
And now she's coming off her Oscar year from Moonstruck, so I can see why they're considering.
Oh, sure, yeah, of course.
But can you imagine being handcuffed to the woman and you're dragging her around and Marvin punching her?
It would have been a totally different movie. And also with Robin Williams, it would have been a different movie.
Yeah.
I probably would have enjoyed it, but I don't think as much because Williams is kinetic and hyper, and Grodin is very
He would have
wry.
been more manic, whereas Grodin is just more subtle.
Because, like you were saying earlier, David, it's mostly an improv movie.
It is.
They know where they need to get in the scene, but they let them play. Like the scene where they're in the bar stealing the $20 bills. That's all improv.
It's all improv.
Hell
Yeah, it's all improv.
When he's talking to the guy just next to him, you know, like, have you seen any suspicious people?
Nope.
Nope.
You live around here?
And that's out of desperation because they're starving at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, he just wants some chorizo and eggs.
Chorizo and eggs.
It's all about that,
you know. And every time I see that scene, I want some chorizo and eggs. You know.
I just want the bacon that's cooking on
You see that guy making all that bacon?
Yeah.
Chorizo and eggs. It's a Mexican sausage.
Mexican sausage, yeah.
You
And
put scrambled eggs.
Jimmy Serrano, a Serrano is a Spanish ham.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of food there.
Another little connection there, a little food connection there.
And they spend most of the movie starving and on the run. You never really see. They eating a little in the train car.
Yeah.
Yeah, some hot wings in the train car.
In the train car, and then in the cargo car, he's eating a banana.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a hint that maybe they had something before.
Well, because after De Niro drops his bag, trying to make it on the train, you do notice that Grodin throws his bag.
Yeah, Grodin got his bag
So there's
in.
something in there, yeah.
So he took care of himself first.
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah, but that's important to show because a lot of movies just gloss right over that, right?
Yeah.
And these guys at one point are starving.
Yes.
And you can see Grodin counting the change with his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 53 cents.
I'm starving and you get cigarettes.
I need these cigarettes.
The best lines.
What does he say?
I need these cigarettes.
And we were talking about earlier, one of my favorite scenes are in the bus, and he's just haranguing him over that cigarette. Why don't you put the cigarette out? Put it out.
When was the last time you had a chest x-ray?
Yeah. But then it is clinched by him going, why are you unpopular with the Chicago Police Department? That's why I think, and that's where Grodin's work on the film pays off, because if you watch, like, it's easy to watch De Niro because De Niro's so electric and dynamic. But a lot of Grodin's stuff, when he's not talking, he's calculating.
Yeah.
How do I get away from this? You can see it on his face. It's very well
He's just
done.
buying time.
Just buying time. How do I get away, get to a plane,
And he
close the
says
door?
it. Sure. He says it in the movie.
He tells him, what does he say?
They're on the train. He goes, I got to find a way to escape at some point.
Yeah.
You know, and he tells them
I'm
right
gonna have
off
to
the
give you the
bat,
slip,
I'm
right?
gonna have to
I'm
give
gonna
you
have
the
to
slip
slip,
at some
yeah.
point.
And
he does a couple times. He
De Niro
gets
goes-
caught after that.
De Niro goes,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, right.
the worst laugh ever, right?
Right. But I mean, all throughout this film, I think Grodin is trying to break De Niro, right? I mean, there are points where De Niro looks like he's going to break, and he doesn't. And the
You mean break character?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Or just give us a little smile.
yeah.
Give us a little smile.
I'm
And
just gonna keep nagging you. You can see it. You can see doing the old technique of like trying to bite your tongue.
It's when he puts it looks like he's putting the cigarette out.
Yeah.
And he starts to laugh.
Yeah.
And he goes, I thought you were putting that out. And he goes, no, I'm not. Suddenly the whole face changes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put it out.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not. And basically he's going, you're not going to break me.
Yeah. Yep. You're not going to get to me.
Really, really astute
I'm
right there.
stronger than you are.
Yep.
Yeah, what
And
a
then
good
Then he hits
scene.
him with the. So why don't you pop that shit up?
Yeah.
Please?
he's like, I need to change tactics with this guy.
I'm going to pull that needle out. I'm going to jab it in you one more time.
And the other thing about Grodin is that it's an idiosyncrasy of the character. The Duke is always right, and he's right even when he admits he's wrong. Exactly. You lied to me first.
Yep.
Well, no. When you lied to me, you didn't know I had lied prior. So, according to you,
you were lying first.
You were lying first, and then he goes, "Well, I may have lied first." Okay, and then the scene is over, and then he goes, "But you lied to me first." Right? Or when he goes, "As your accountant." Well, you're not my accountant. I just said as if I was. And then the scene plays off, and the last stinger is, I'm just saying if I was your accountant. I just love that.
He has to have that last word. He's got to have it all times.
He's got to have it.
And it's the kind of stuff that they don't, again, I hate to sound like an old man, but they don't do that anymore in the movies.
No.
Movies are quick cuts, let's get to the next scene. Instead of, like in this one, the camera just holds.
Oh, yeah.
We got two guys chewing the scenery. We're going to get to some great action.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, watch this.
Well, they take their time developing the story, right? But the movie doesn't drag because of it, because the chemistry is so good.
No.
And the writing is so good. 2 hours and 15 minutes go by, and you're like, oh, we're at the end already.
Yeah.
It's
a really touching end.
Yes.
I mean, we're at the, if we're talking about the end, because everybody gets what they wanted. The good guys get what they wanted in the end.
Oh, yeah.
Alonzo Mosley gets Jimmy Serrano in custody with 1 million charges against him.
Right. Yep.
Dorfler gets arrested and probably released later that morning, right? And the Duke and Jack Walsh make it to L.A. with 25 minutes to spare, and he does what?
Lets him go.
Lets him go.
Because he made it.
And it's such a great moment because Jack realizes at that moment, the only guy who's been square to him the whole movie is the Duke.
Yep.
Everybody else has been lying to him, trying to cheat him, trying to take him out. And look what the Duke did. The Duke got him to go talk to his wife and daughter, put that to bed, take the watch off, end it all. So he was like...
While still sticking it to Joey Pants.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Right. Yes.
Say goodbye, you lying son of a... Because I'm letting him go.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there's no, hello, Jack? Hello? He's out of the picture.
That's it.
And we have that big laugh moment, and then... He goes, I don't know what to say. Well, don't say nothing, because if knowing you, I'm going to make me put those back on.
Right.
But it's just such a sweet, and it's so weird to say sweet between two grown-ass men, but it really is, because anytime you have two characters who go through this big life-changing event, and it is, they've gone through, you know, they've started out as one person, and they've, through their relationship and the adventure, learned a lesson about themselves and the other person.
And they're adversaries when they first started.
Oh, absolutely. He's taking them in.
Oh, he's totally taking them in, and he's totally pounding on them, and he's totally saying stuff. The other one's arguing back and forth, but when it gets to the end, they're friends.
Well, he's making a living, right? He's making a living. De Niro's just making a living. But they end up being good for each other in the end. Yeah,
because in the end, Jack Walsh, who was kicked off or quit the Chicago police force because of Jimmy Serrano, because of him getting close to Serrano and then not going on the take, Serrano's in jail. He did it.
He did it.
He brought the mob boss down from the outside, doing it his way.
Yeah. And he says in the movie where he's, something I've been wanting to say to you for 7 years.
10 years.
10 years. You're under arrest. Perfect.
It's perfect, right? And it's not done like a Schwarzenegger movie. You know, I've wanted to say this to you a long time. You're under arrest. He goes, you're under arrest. It's real subtle.
But it's very genuine, too. Right?
Oh, yeah. I like sticking it right to them, right? And we can imagine, and this is, oh, man, this is the best movies do this. When the movie ends, you're like, no. In my head, I know exactly. He's going off into the night. He's going to buy that coffee shop. And he's going to have dinner with his wife and his daughter. And he's going to patch it up.
And isn't that the beauty, though, of not having a sequel to it? Because that in your head works, right?
Well,
and it's beautiful. Even though, there is, I guess. But I've never seen it. So to me,
exactly. If I have not seen it, it doesn't
exist. But they've been talking about a legitimate
sequel. It's kind of like Rachel. You know, if there's not a picture, it didn't exist.
Sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie, but I would know. Yeah. For your information, there are 3
made-for-TV movies.
Made-for-TV. Another Midnight Run. Very, very clever. Midnight Run for Your Life, and Midnight Run, I don't know, Run Around, I don't know what it is. They star Chris, what's his name?
Chris. The guy from Happy Gilmore?
The guy from Happy Gilmore, yeah.
The comedian, I can't remember his name.
I have them. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch them, but they were hard to find for a long time because a lot of people had heard about them, and you can IMDb them, but
you couldn't find them.
You couldn't. Well, they weren't available, and like what? Why do you want to see another movie with another guy?
Who even aired them? Was this like on CW or something?
They were part of the TNT action spectacular action weekend movies. Midnight Run for Your Life. You know what I mean? Like,
well, they made a series of Smokey and the Bandit films like that too for television, where they recast the whole thing.
Did they really?
Bandit. It was called Bandit. Yeah, and they made like 3, I think, TV movies on Channel 5. Back in the KTLA days.
Oh, those sound terrible.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of doing a whole episode about movies that have sequels you've never heard of.
Oh, my God.
And Midnight Run and Smokey and the Bandit are certainly, like, really a sequel? Who knew, right?
Yeah.
It's like that Dumb and Dumber sequel that starred other people.
Oh, my God.
Harold and Lloyd, the early years. I don't even know what it's called.
But I might be one of the few who does not like Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, I'm not a fan either. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan.
Yeah.
I don't like those movies. I don't get them. And I love Jeff Daniels, too.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't like movies where they're just that dumb. Yeah. Like Bill and Ted were not that dumb.
No.
Wayne and Garth, not that dumb.
Yeah.
Because there were subtleties in those characters, right? They're not over the top, in your face. Look at me, I'm stupid.
Yeah, I don't have time for stupid.
I don't need to watch
the only stupid I've ever really enjoyed is Beavis and Butthead.
Well,
but they're not real.
Yeah, no, they're not.
You know what I mean?
No.
So, where do you go from here with this Midnight Run? Like, it's so. If you haven't watched it, folks, you should go watch. You should get it.
Let's talk about the supporting cast, because Yaphet Kotto is fabulous in the movie, right?
Yaphet Kotto, if you know him, he's the guy from Alien. Mm-hmm. I knew him from. He did a really amazing episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where he plays a guy who breaks out of prison, and he breaks into. You'll know exactly where I'm going in a second. He breaks into this woman's house and he holds her hostage, and in the end, he's undone because he never figured out she's deaf. He keeps making her talk to the police, and in the end, they realize, she can't talk, right? Or she can't hear.
Wow.
You're like, oh my God! But he's great actor, and he is fantastic in this movie.
And supposedly he was very ill or had a fever or a cold during the film, and he was very frustrated with Martin Brest's direction because they kept repeating scenes over and over again. So seeing his frustration on camera makes total sense, and it works beautifully.
When you said that, I was like, Oh my God,
maybe rewatch it afterwards.
That's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
You know, when he goes, his real name's Mosley.
I'm Mosley.
Right. But then once he finally nabs Serrano, right? He's got that smile on his face. The first time you actually really see him, like, finally enjoying.
And it's done without dialogue.
Yep.
He just holds the disc and smiles, and Jimmy looks away like, God damn it. All I had to do was stay at the hotel.
Yeah, so quiet, and that the only time where he's not cussing, he doesn't say a word. He's just quiet and just.
The other is the guy who plays Sidney. Jimmy Serrano's assistant.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy. He played the chief of police in Rush Hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was in Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights.
Philip Baker Hall, right?
That's him.
Name, yeah.
He in his little tiny scenes in this movie, he is fantastic. Him and Serrano. They're just talking, but oh my God, he's trying to be the voice of reason. Take a cash offer, but don't go you know what, Sidney? If I say a word, I'm going to take that phone, I'm going to bury it in your head. When I worked at the video store, I watched this movie a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I watched it with my friend Greg Stone. One time, Greg came in to buy a Laserdisc player from our salesman because he was going to get a good deal, right? His name was John Harvell. He had a lazy eye, which was not conducive to selling televisions. You know, poor guy. But Greg got in an argument with the guy, and so he leaves just in a huff over the price or whatever. And John Harvell comes up to the counter and he goes, "Was that your friend?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "He's kind of a jerk, man." I said, "What? We got a big fight, and he told me he was going to stab me in the heart with a pencil." And I'm standing there going, he has no idea. He has no idea that's from Midnight Run, right? And I called Greg later. I said, "Did you just tell John Harvell you're going to stab him with a pencil?" He goes, "Yeah, it's from Midnight Run." I go, I know it's from Midnight Run, right? But like, it just was so funny because he was like, he's really going to do it, right? I mean, he's not going to stab you with a pencil, you know. The Joker might, you know. Make this pencil disappear,
with
right?
The number 2 pencil.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, it's like totally the one scene where he's like, "I'm gonna bash him, and I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna throw him in the lake."
Oh yeah, you mess with me, I'll shoot him in the head and dump him in the river. And then he shakes his head. They're friends by that point. That's we were watching the movie with a sharp eye this time. Like, where does De Niro decide there's a turn there?
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty late in the game.
We're thinking the train.
It's on the train scene, yeah.
It's on the train scene where it's like, you said it was all improv. It's not scripted.
Yeah, have you ever had sex with an animal, Jack? Right, that's just trying to break his character there, to try to make him smile.
And it's such a brilliant scene.
Yeah.
I was telling Romo, I've watched this movie so many times that I would put it on and like I said, I would do stuff. Right. I late in the game figured out that's not De Niro answering back.
Oh, it's not.
That it's Grodin talking to himself.
Yeah.
He goes, "Jack, what?" I just thought it was him.
Oh, see, that's the.
That's the joke, right?
That's the joke because me and my buddy Chuck we would say that knowing it's the only Grodin saying that to himself. "Jack, what?" You know. and
it's fun. What's happening here, folks, is we're trying not to curse.
Exactly.
Because the movie contains so many utterances of the F word.
I believe it's 119 times that the F word is said. Although son of a you-know-what is said quite frequently as well, and probably not as many times as that. But
not gratuitous.
No.
It fits the movie, right?
It fits the movie and it fits the characters. And it fits the frustration that De Niro has, just getting this guy from one side of the country to the other.
What should be easy, right?
Right.
Yeah,
but I think that De Niro discovers that maybe he kind of likes the Duke in that scene when they're sitting around the fire on the train. Because, he does get him to laugh. And there's a moment where they said, "Hey, maybe we could have been friends in the next life."
In another life, John.
Yeah, and maybe that...
Yeah, no, it's a real good moment because it's finally where he tells him why he's wearing that watch.
Right.
And Grodin says... basically, he's wearing the watch because it was the first gift his wife gave him, his ex-wife, and that he wears it because they're going to get back together and she's going to go, "Oh, you still have the watch on." Yeah. And Grodin, sometimes you need this, Grodin gives him permission to let the watch go. It ain't happening, dude. Yeah. Well, I've just met her. We were just there, and she's not coming back. She still loves you, because we've got money in a car, right? You saw me go, "Oh my God," in Blu-ray, she's crying. I've never seen her cry. I thought she was stoic, but she's got a tear running down her face that I've never seen before, right? And yes, she loves Jack, but she knows until Jack fixes himself, he's not good for himself, much less somebody else.
Correct,
and
yeah.
Grodin in that scene is saying, you've done enough at this point. I'm giving you permission to let that go.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
And that's where he starts to really use this adventure, talking about Jack, to put his life back together, right? Because it's only, what is Tyler Durden say? It's only when we lost everything that we know what we're capable of.
Yeah.
And when he's lying on the ground after Marvin smacks him with the car, and we didn't talk about John Ashton, the great John Ashton, nails him with the car door, you can see De Niro lying on the ground going, and when he gets up, like, he is really hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that must really, that could knock the wind out of you.
You learned earlier he's got an ulcer. So
Yeah.
obviously now getting hit in the stomach with a car door from a car that's moving, it's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
So he stands up, and it's over.
He's lost everything.
For all intents and purposes, the movie is over. Right. He's lost the Duke. He's lost his power. He has no money, nothing. And I just love that moment of him walking in the diner, getting a cup of coffee, and what do I do now? And then suddenly, everything starts to fall into place with Jack. And that's good screenwriting. That's good acting.
In the coffee shop. Right, when he gets picked up in the coffee shop,
a coffee shop he wants to own someday.
It's that I think that's a good point there. Like, this is his goal. He's in his goal right now, right?
Right.
Think about that. And the guy's treating him pretty well. You can keep the matches, you know. Yeah. I think maybe him saying keep the matches, pardon the expression, sparks him a few minutes later that I've got this.
Yeah, I've got this number. I can use this number.
The number on the
Tony Darvo.
I've got a way out.
Magic matches ever in the world who can survive a whole river rapid ride and all that. So yeah.
For a middle of the road studio picture, not a tent pole.
No.
It's got high caliber actors. I mean, John Ashton from Beverly Hills Cop, and
he's a great supporting.
Some kind of wonderful, great actor. Yeah. It's got a lot of stunts. They must wreck 30, 40 cars in this movie.
It's like a Smokey and the Bandit film at one point.
Right.
Exactly. With all those police cars crashing over each other.
There's a really nice helicopter model explosion that's really done well.
For the time period, it looks great.
It still holds up. I've seen worse in modern movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially helicopters. It's hard to do a good helicopter crash. Usually, remember in the old days, you would go behind a hill.
Yeah, like a la Superman 2.
Yeah.
Back behind
it's still better than the plane crash in Temple of Doom, right? Into the hill where it just evaporates.
Oh, yeah.
Just evaporates.
Or Air Force One.
Oh, yeah.
Where the plane just sort of flips in the water and it looks like a cartoon.
And that's even later. That's
97.
Yeah,
that's a full 9 years later than this movie.
Yeah.
So scale of 1 to 10, where would you put Midnight Run? And tell me what a 10 is.
I know exactly. I'm trying to think what a 10 is.
For you, Romo, what's a 10?
God, we're talking movie, right?
Yeah. Tough, right?
Very tough. This is close to a 10.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
9.5 in my eyes.
Because for me, if Back to the Future is a 10, this is right behind it.
Yeah.
Because the script is so tight.
Yeah.
There's so like we were talking earlier, so many obstacles are put in their way, and when he finally figures out how to get past every single one of them, it's so gratifying, and you're like, they don't make movies like, because in another world, Jimmy would go, oh, well, I got away this time, but maybe in the sequel you'll get me Jack Wall. You know what I mean? Just something stupid, right?
Yeah.
So what's a 10 for you?
Might be Platoon.
Platoon?
That's a really, really good, perfect movie.
The first casualty of war is innocence.
Oh, God.
Forget about it, buddy. Johnny Depp, right?
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen. So it's a 10, but you're going to put this like 9.5.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it could even be a 10 if you're looking at the comedy part.
I agree. I think it's a masterpiece.
So,
and
I've seen so many movies, so it's really hard for me to...
If you've listened to this show, I hate everything.
Yeah,
this movie's a masterpiece.
You usually hate things I really like.
Like what? Like what?
Oh my God, I gotta think.
All right, well, David, good think about it. David, what's a 10 for you?
10 for me is Goodfellas.
Oh, fantastic.
Because I know that, and I love The Godfather, but I think Goodfellas is the greatest mob movie ever made.
I love Goodfellas,
I think it's fantastic. Obviously, it's based on a true story, so you have that connection and that allure about it. And that comes out a year after, right? Or almost a year later. Or even less.
2 years, 90.
Right?
Yeah.
And so De Niro, I think, is in his prime.
He's, for us, prime.
Prime De Niro.
Oh, yeah.
This is the De Niro that you look at and you go, that's my De Niro. Whereas now, even he does meet the parents and analyze that. He's a caricature of himself.
But that
now, right?
bad grandpa crap.
Yeah,
I mean, those are terrible movies.
Yeah, he's going through the motions now, right? He's just cashing.
He's cashing a check
right?
at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're gonna get Cape Fear not too long after that, right?
Yeah.
That's a masterpiece
and to
too.
Me, I actually like Cape Fear more than I like Silence of the Lambs.
Cape Fear's a good movie.
And those came out, I believe, in the same year. And I was always bummed that, like,
91.
Everyone always talks about Silence of the Lambs. Like, damn, Cape Fear.
Yeah. That scene in Cape Fear when he beats up all those goons and he's yelling at what's the actor's name? The
Nick
father, Nick Nolte. You out there, counselor?
Yeah.
I know you are.
The best scene, and I still want to do it now, is sit in the front row of a movie theater, light up my cigar, and just laugh my ass off for 5 minutes.
And that's Problem Child, right?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Just pick any of the horrible comedies that come out. The one coming out with Scarlett Johansson, Rough Night.
Oh, yeah.
That looks like a remake of Very Bad
I think
Things.
It already came
it's
out.
the same plot.
It's the exact same plot.
Yeah, very bad.
Like they kill the stripper, and you're like, do they watch movies? Yeah. Do the people who make movies actually watch movies and go, does anybody raise their hand and go, we've already made this movie?
And how they're not getting sued by remaking it.
You got switch genders, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if Goodfellas is a 10, where does Midnight Run fall?
It's a 9.5.
9.5.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, because of the fact that, to me, it's the best road buddy movie. And I think the chemistry between the actors is just phenomenal.
Oh, I think it's great.
And the writing is very subtle, and they take their time developing the characters. Even though we're getting a lot of information in the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah,
we don't know Jack Walsh.
Yeah, but that does help that you get that, because then now we can take time to develop, and some real good shots.
Yeah.
Nice swooping shots of coming from the crane when the train's coming in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just perfect.
And Jack's likable from the beginning, just like Charles the Duke is likable for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like, of course, if we were living through that hell, we'd want to kill him too.
We'd want to kill him too, right?
You want to be Grodin and pick on that other person.
Oh, well, he's trying to find Jack's weaknesses. How do because he knows, like he says in the movie, if Serrano's anything like you say he is, I'm not going to last 10 minutes when I get to LA County. So I have to give you the slip.
Right.
Yep.
He has to. It's his life. And for De Niro, he's looking at this is his chance, and this is late in the game. We figure this out. He's bringing the Duke in to get back at Serrano himself.
Yeah.
The money's great, but this is going to put Serrano in jail, and that's why he's doing it. Yeah. And he probably would have given him to the feds if the feds hadn't bullied him.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And I think at that point, though, there is a concern for the Duke's life at that point, because he knows he's going to get killed.
He's going to get killed, right?
And that's why he says, "I'm not giving you the discs until I see the Duke."
Yeah. There's some emotions at play there where when the Duke finally calls Jack out, look, don't pretend that you care. Right. It's very insulting. Yeah. And he goes, you're making me out to be some thug who's only interested in a chunk of change. And you're like, well, that's all you've been the whole movie.
Right.
And it's time to change. Yeah. And that's where we were talking about. That's the turn.
Yeah. And that's where he admits, like, hey, they offered me $1 million for you. And he's like, well, why didn't you take it?
You're all about the money.
And he goes, but wait a minute. He's all, this is why I'm in this business to begin with, because they tried to offer me in the past. And that's when Grodin realizes, wait a minute.
We're on the same side.
Yeah, and now you're going to turn me in because of that?
Right.
And it's funny to think of a movie like this, which on the surface is just, it's a big bang bang action movie. It's not.
No.
It's about friendship, loyalty, and ultimately
betrayal,
redemption.
too, right?
Betrayal.
De Niro's character's been betrayed.
Yes,
and not only by Serrano, but by his boss
and his wife.
It's a good 3-act type of movie.
Yeah.
Where you get your good peaks and valleys, and then you get the good conclusive third act.
And throughout the whole first half, or even more than that, of the movie, it's been fun, right? It's been a fun, hey, I'm going to annoy you, and we're going to see some action. But then once Serrano has the Duke in the limo,
and
it gets serious.
You're gonna, first thing that's going to happen tonight is you're going to die tonight. Second thing, I'm going to go home, I'm going to have a nice hot meal, I'm going to find your wife, and I'm going to kill her.
And then he smacks him right across the face. Right. It's suddenly like, he's a mob boss. He's not messing around.
Yeah.
And then you realize all that talk about killing the Duke and then killing Walsh, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going to do it right in the airport terminal.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely are. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And who cares who's there watching it,
The goons don't care. They'll take anybody out, and that's when you don't realize till the very end, everybody around them is in on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I love that
And another
stuff.
character that I think we need to bring up, too, here is the music of Danny Elfman, right?
Fantastic
Because
music.
it's so non-Danny Elfman.
Yeah, it was one of the first where I went, oh, that doesn't sound like Oingo Boingo at all. Because Pee-wee's Big Adventure sounds wacky and kooky, right?
Sure.
This is hard rock guitar and harmonica.
Right.
Has that great type of like maybe honky tonk type feel.
Yeah.
So
because of the different, I think also of the different states you're going through, I think it kind of sets the tone for where they are in the country as well.
Yeah.
Musically, but it's different from Beetlejuice and it's different from Scissorhands. Very
definitely.
different. And Batman.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as whimsical.
Yeah, hey,
right?
yeah, hey, everyone.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's really solid.
It's great. I listen to it all the time.
It
The
drives
main
the movie,
the main theme was turned into a pop song. If you want to find it, it's called "Try to Believe,"
Which is actually by Boingo, but not credited as Boingo.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
What were you going to say? There was a movie
thought of one
that I hated and you loved.
Not only you hated, but I believe Austin hates it too. And every time you guys talk bad about it, I was like, my God, I really enjoyed the hell out of that movie. Tomorrowland.
Oh,
see?
Oh, that's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
But you see, it's not that bad.
It's worse.
I gave up on it about 15 minutes.
Preachy, mean-spirited, ridiculous. Okay, all right. Well, there's 5 minutes on Tomorrowland, and listen. Here's the thing. Everybody's got a different opinion. Yeah. You enjoy the movie? God bless you. What do I always say to people when they go, well, I enjoyed that movie, especially Rogue One and Force Awakens.
Oh yeah, and you see, I like those two movies too.
I'm the guy that goes, damn it.
I wish I would.
I wish I was you.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
But I don't think you're ever gonna like a Star Wars movie ever again.
No, I'm done with Star Wars.
I think so.
I'm done. Totally done.
I mean, they could still make the best one, and I still think it'd be like that.
Here's my pitch for the perfect Star Wars movie. And if you're listening, Lucasfilm, I'll direct it. Right? It's a Boba Fett solo, no Han Solo, Boba Fett solo movie where he's delivering somebody to somebody, and it's 90 minutes, no dialogue, just action. All done through exposition, words on screens, and just kick-ass Boba Fett.
That would be a great TV episode.
He don't take his helmet off. Yeah. You ever remember there was a silent issue of G.I. Joe comics.
Yeah.
That's my
Snake Eyes. Yeah. And I own it.
It's considered one of the finest comics ever.
It's called Silent Interlude.
And how badass is it?
It's amazing.
That's what I want to make with Boba Fett.
I would see that Boba Fett.
But I know you had an episode a while back about as we grow older, do we lose that magic?
We do, yeah.
And so if you and I and all three of us here are 12, and The Force Awakens comes out, or even Episode 1, 2, and 3, do we look at it differently?
Oh, sure. My kids, they live with me, so they kind of have to hate the episode, the prequels, right. But they grew up on them. Yeah. They remember the wonder I had in my mind when I discovered they loved the opening years of California Adventure, and I was like, why? And they're like, this is all we had, Dad. Yeah. Of course we loved it. I'm like, that's a revelation to me.
Well, I think back with the superhero genre that we are in now, because it has become a genre.
Oh, totally.
Right? Yeah. And
all-encompassing genre.
Sure. And say what you will about Marvel or DC, there are some that are fine, decent films, but there's such an oversaturation, I think, of them because of the whole universe. And when I tell people, in my opinion, what the greatest superhero film of all time is, for me, it's Superman the movie. Because when that movie came out, I was 8 years old, right? 7 years
78,
old.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was an epic film, right? We had never seen anything like that before. No. And I remember seeing the coming attraction poster, and all it was the logo, right?
You will believe a man can fly.
You believe a man can fly. And it had Gene Hackman in it, and Christopher Reeve,
Ned Beatty.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. And I know for some people they look at it and go, it's dated and whatever. But for me, that's my Superman.
Yeah, here's the thing though, that Donner Superman movie is almost timeless. It has such an ethereal, weird quality to it. The Metropolis scenes feel just so like, well, that's New York, 1978. That's the way it looked.
Yeah.
That the movies today certainly don't have that innocence.
Right.
They won't treat Superman like the Boy Scout that he is.
No. Yeah.
Dark and gritty is not Superman.
No.
He doesn't wrap people's trucks around poles or get even with them. He saves kittens from trees.
Right.
And if you try to fight that, then it's not Superman anymore.
Right.
Make a Shazam movie. You can screw with Shazam all you want, but Superman he's Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
He embodied him in a way no one's ever going to touch.
Right.
And you know what? I thought Christian Bale did great, but Michael Keaton's my Batman. or Adam West.
Adam West,
right?
Yeah. And God bless Adam West. We just lost Adam West.
God bless Adam West.
I got to go experience the bat signal on the.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, you went to that?
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that looked like a lot of fun. I had to work, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was kind of a fluke thing. We just went down there, but it was worth it.
How was it, chum?
It was.
So, real quick, Tomorrowland. You like it. That's great. I wish I could be you. Here's my take on it in like 2 sentences. George Clooney, as a child, invents a time machine that tells people when the world is going to end. For that thing, he is invited into a magical, futuristic city where all the greatest minds are accompanied and built, and they have a clubhouse. And instead of going, genius kid, they go, kick him out and never let him back in. From the first, that's the plot. I go, I'm lost.
I think in that movie, to me, it's just a popcorn movie, so I don't quite.
I don't subscribe to the popcorn movie.
And I do. I'm okay to sit there with a popcorn movie and just relax.
Because The Sixth Sense is a popcorn movie that makes me bawl my eyes out. It's so good. You know what I mean? Popcorn movie, where they go, you should turn your brain off. Well, that's Transformers.
For me, it's Independence Day.
Independence Day, right?
I could just go see the last Transformers movie.
You did?
I did.
What's wrong?
Nothing else to do.
Good Lord.
I decided to get up and go
You
watch
do
it.
see everything.
I told you, I see everything.
How was it? I love. They spent $250 million, and the guy goes,
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't care if I say this was the whole thing. When you're watching the commercials, Optimus Prime all of a sudden is a bad guy. He's a bad guy for like 5 minutes.
Well, that's like last time when they told us the Dinobots were in it.
Yeah.
Aren't they in the last 5 minutes?
Yeah, but that's the last 5 minutes. In this movie, it's somewhere around the middle where he's like, he's been changed, right? He shows up to Earth. He does bad things. He starts fighting people. And he has a fight with Bumblebee. And Bumblebee all of a sudden gets to talk.
Oh, no.
Changes him to go back to normal. Wow. And I was like, whoa. And then I looked at my watch and went, I still got another 30 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, those movies are epically long.
I like it better.
Too long.
I liked it better in Cable Guy when Matthew Broderick punches Jim Carrey and suddenly his lisp is gone.
Yeah, and then he punches him again.
And he goes, "You stupid son of a..." See, I don't need talking robots for that, right? Well, I want to thank you both for coming on the show. What a blast talking about one of my favorite movies of all time. Oh my God!
And we could have stayed longer talking about it.
I know.
Gone more into detail.
I'm cutting this off in an hour.
Oh, exactly.
Just because I'm going to add 30 minutes with Charles Grodin, right? But because again, when you like a movie this much, you've seen the movie this many times. Like you said, we could talk for 2 hours on it, as long as the movie.
Right. And like you said, if there's anybody out there that has not seen this film, I envy you, because go out and watch it. I think you will fall in love with it and experiencing it for the very first time.
And to that end, I have been going to Book Off in the malls where they sell used movies for like $2.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And I'm buying all these movies. When I worked at the video store, I used to see all these titles, and I've never seen them. Big, massive movies. So I am going back. Like, if you've not seen Midnight Run, God bless you. I am so jealous,
exactly.
Right? Along that same lines, this week my movies are Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I've never seen it.
Great movie.
And Bonnie and Clyde, and I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So I am practicing what I preach by digging up. I just saw Deliverance last week for the first time.
Movie too. That shocks me in a sense because you're just as good at movies as I am.
Well, you know what it is Deliverance has that rep of, ooh, squeal like a pig. You think that's the whole movie, and it's like, that's like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not even what the movie's about.
Right.
And it's about so much more than that. And man, we were talking. Burt Reynolds is so good in that movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
He had a career. He was an actor at one point before.
What a cool dude.
Well, I mean, Smokey made him a superstar, and then he became, I'm going to do the Cannonball Run movies, and I'm going to do
you know what it was?
movies.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He started playing this Burt Reynolds character.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if he's Smokey or Cannonball Run or The End or all those other movies. It's the same guy.
Machine.
It's all the same guy.
He's got a cowboy hat on and a mustache.
And he goes,
right?
you know.
Yep. And then I'm going to wink at the camera at one point to show you I'm in on the joke.
What does he say to Sally Field? If you're going to use the jelly jars as glasses, you got to clean the jelly out first. But in Deliverance, he's in character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's a badass in that movie.
Even in Longest Yard.
Yeah.
That's some great acting in that one, too.
Yeah.
It's just once he hit Smokey, I think he...
And it's weird to say, like, Burt Reynolds had a career that people they go, oh, he's really famous. You have no idea.
No.
Yeah.
When I say Burt Reynolds was famous, he couldn't go anywhere in the world. My mother would swoon at Burt Reynolds,
he was
right?
the Tom Cruise, I guess, of that era. I mean, Tom Cruise is not what he used to be, but in our heyday, Cruise
right?
was the guy, right? He was the box office guy. But it was...
The 70s were very forgiving because at one point the number one box office draw in the world was Elliot Gould. And you just go, really? Yeah. But he's a good actor.
Right.
He's a funny guy.
You wouldn't think that now.
But not... No. Or same with... Gosh, I always forget his name. He plays the grandpa on the Goldbergs.
Oh, George Segal.
George Segal. Massive star.
Roller Coaster, man.
Roller Coaster.
Love that movie.
Henry
came
Fonda?
out on Blu-ray, yep.
Henry Fonda was in it.
And Helen Hunt, a young Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
And when that film came out, it was you had motion seats.
Yep.
So whenever time you were on the coaster, you could feel like you were on the coaster.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Now that's called 4D.
Right.
Now they have a name for it and an upcharge.
Yes.
That's a movie I would love to see redone, but which amusement park would want to?
They wouldn't.
You
It
couldn't.
would have to be a fake one.
Yep.
That was the era of the disaster film, so that was the tail end of that.
The earthquake, towering inferno, airport. They're like, what else can we blow up? A roller coaster.
And it was funny because that came out, I believe, in 76, 77, and that's the Revolution coaster at Six Flags. That was its
had to be 76
bicentennial year.
Came out in 76.
It was the bicentennial year.
I should watch that again.
In the theater as a Sixer.
I have Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. I'm gonna watch that.
That's a horrible movie.
That's pretty bad.
I love Kiss. And Chuck, to this day, will fight me on this because he loves the hell out of it.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's one of the worst movies ever made.
Terrible, but he likes it because of its campiness. And I'm like, yeah, but you're the guy who likes the monkeys.
But even camp factor, it's still bad.
Watch The Car with James Brolin.
Oh, I love The Car, man.
It just came out on Blu-ray. I used to watch it on Channel 5 as a kid growing up.
I saw that in the movie.
That's where the car's the devil.
The devil, yeah. With that annoying honk.
Yeah, it's like Duel, but like a straight horror movie.
Basically.
No suspense. Like the car is coming.
It's just running over people.
Yep.
It's just taking people out.
Oh, I love it. Isn't there like a devil face when it finally blows up?
When it blows up, it becomes like a big cloud.
And you hear it roar. It like screams when it goes over the cliff.
You know they made a big die-cast metal car. The car.
Oh, I've got to have it.
Yeah. It's like $300 or $400. It's really rare.
Oh, I would totally.
I only know because I keep my eye out. Like I gotta get one of those, man.
I gotta have it.
All right. Well, hey. Thank you so much for coming out.
Having us.
Yeah, it was a full night of pizza, Midnight Run, and the show. I'm so humbled that you took time because I know you're busy. You both work for the Magic Kingdom.
Yes, we do.
And you're all very, very busy.
Too busy sometimes.
Don't ask for sign-ins.
Don't ask for sign-ins.
Don't ask for sign-ins.
Don't ask for sign-ins. Don't you dare.
All right, so Midnight Run.
I'm going to get some chorizo and eggs after I leave here, and maybe some donuts.
I'll get some donuts, right?
Get some donuts.
I need these cigarettes.
Like if you were going to throw a Midnight Run party, you'd serve chorizo and eggs.
Chorizo and eggs.
That's the dish.
Oh,
and Lyonnaise potatoes.
Lyonnaise potatoes, yeah.
Have you ever heard of it?
Cartons of cigarettes everywhere.
Right. Sponsored by Marlboro, right?
That's right. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. A special shout out before we finish up here. A special thank you to Jason Rasmussen on Facebook, who did you see the debacle yesterday about Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did.
They're apparently changing the buy a bride scene.
They are.
Where the guy goes, show them your larboard side, expose your superstructure.
Right.
We wants the redhead, right? So they're changing it to they're auctioning off goods and not women.
Chickens and things like that.
And the redhead's now
will become a pirate.
The pirate.
She's in charge with a gun, right?
Right.
Whatever. PC culture, change it. Whatever. Who cares?
It's been changed enough now that we should just accept it and move on. Go on the ride.
Well,
it's a ride about pirates, right? We could spend another hour talking about this or maybe more. I'm not going to get too into it. But
are we allowed to get into it?
I don't know that we're allowed
I got really irritated only because if you want a pirate ride where all the pirates are equal and there's this and that, then just make that ride. Right. But the pirate ride I grew up with, they already made it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I put up with Jack Sparrow and David Jones appeared in the water, right? I've seen all that. And you know what? That one in Shanghai? That's amazing.
I want to go on that so bad.
They could put that ride right next to the one that we have, and the lines would be just as long for both. This idea that they have to keep making it over and making it over and appeasing people who haven't complained yet.
I never heard anybody.
Nobody has. It's a preemptive strike, which is even weirder, right?
Yeah.
So on Facebook, I did a GoFundMe to buy the redhead for $20, and it's a total joke. I put it up for 10 minutes and took it down. Jason gave me $20.
Money, yes.
And I said, so I went. I've used GoFundMe for my life, right? Rachel calls. She goes, "You can't joke around on GoFundMe, man. That's not funny. People, if you ever do it now, they're going to think," I go, "It's a joke. I'm buying the redhead, honey." So she goes, "You got to take that down." So I took it down, and I'm trying to find a way to refund his money. Well, it's not there. You have to email corporate, and they have to. I said, "Jason, can I give you $20? And God bless him. He goes, "No, it's for the show. Mention me on the show." So. Thank you, Jason, for buying into the joke, and we have enough money to buy the redhead.
Yes.
We want the redhead.
All this time I thought he was saying we want the Reddy. I don't know why.
Oh.
I like it was the pirate name for a redhead.
Maybe it was Helen Reddy.
Yeah, it could be.
I am
then
woman.
I was told it was different. It's redhead, and I was like, all these years.
Hey, there's Rachel at the very end.
She's looking very
We're about to end the show.
Yay!
So they get to end the show.
Oh, wait.
No.
Can we all do it?
Sure.
This is their only time that they get to do it.
Well, now they have to come back if they
Oh,
want.
my goodness.
I'm sure
You
we're coming
said,
back.
right? You said.
Are you waiting for Austin?
Yeah, we all got to do it.
Do what? Okay, wait.
Well, we're doing a V episode
Have they seen
at some
yet?
point.
No.
I've made Austin watch it, yes.
You have?
Yeah. I mean, he's like, "I've already seen that movie. Maybe watch." There's a whole bunch of movies that I'm like, "You going to sit and watch this with me?" And he goes, I already did. Because I want him to watch Midnight Run, Goodfellas, Count of Monte Cristo.
Don't get me why he does not like The Sandlot. Oh my God.
I've not watched that.
Exactly.
No, he didn't like Stand By Me.
Or Stand By Me.
We can't discuss that.
Yelling at my phone that day. I was like, oh my God.
We're going to do an episode on Stand By Me.
We could, because I thought I'm gonna put this movie on, and we're gonna have this really bonding moment.
That movie actually changed my life.
And then at the end he goes, "Yeah, Goonies was better." I'm like, "Oh my God!"
Like,
I don't know, man.
No, Stand By Me is timeless.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll go on record.
I agree.
I'm not a Will Wheaton fan. I was never really a River Phoenix fan.
The story.
It's timeless. It's Stephen King. Gosh darn it! What about Stand By Me?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Oh yeah. Hey, how about here's what I'll tell you. I'll only do this one time. Your opinion is wrong. You're just wrong.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I don't like it. I think it's Goonies without any charm.
I
know.
But to be fair,
is a book.
hey, to be fair, what about Casino?
Casino's fantastic.
Casino's fantastic.
I can't wait for you to see Goodfellas.
I know, we're all waiting for
Goodfellas is next.
I don't even know what that is.
You know what Goodfellas is?
This guy in a boat, one dog looking this way, one dog looking that way, and the guy in a boat's like, "What do you want from me?"
What do you want?
Goodfellas is good.
Can I borrow this? I gotta put the what do you call it? The foot?
hoof.
The hoof. Yeah.
You can't leave it there, Ma. It's a sin.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. Oh, I love good.
That's another episode.
That's
Absolutely.
another episode.
Pencil us in.
And we'll plan it. We can watch Goodfellas.
And can we have some spaghetti?
Yes.
Spaghetti
and meatballs.
Yeah. I want to stir the sauce for like 5 hours.
You have to cut the onions so thin they liquefy in the pan. It's a very good system. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I've said it again. Handle counts how many times I say I'm ending the show and then I don't end the show.
Remember, I'm the guy who invented the drinking game, so I think right now we'd have to take 4 shots right now.
Yeah. My kind of party.
I am Jeff. I am the voice of this crazy, insane show. The whole family's here. La-di-da-di-da-di. We like to party, right?
La-di-da-di. We like to party. We don't cause trouble. We don't bother nobody.
Oh my God.
This episode has gotten out of control.
And if I was gonna let the Duke go, I would do it for how much money? 91 reasons.
Thanks for listening by Grandthar's Hammer. We'll be back with another episode. Live long and prosper. May the force be with you. So say we all. Hey, hey, hey.
So if you listen to the show at all, you know that I had like maybe the most bizarre high school life. Like it wasn't the typical normal da 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 da. Like it was my fault. It was my fault. I went out of my way to be strange and unusual and to like the things nobody liked because I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to prove. I just knew that the mainstream wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. And I dared people to keep up with me. And if you're listening this far into the show, hey, thanks. We've already run the credits. I figured if I'm going to do a 30-minute rant about Charles Grodin, I should probably stick it on the end of the show. And, you know, it's only for the diehards. Because if you're a Midnight Run fan, we did a full hour. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank David and Adrian Romo for coming over and hanging out. We had pizza. We watched a movie. We did a show. It was great. It was fantastic. I thought, if I'm going to do this huge Charles Grodin thing, I'll put it after the credits because most people are going to go, he's a blip in showbiz. I'm not interested. But for me, it's so bizarre. I talked on the other part of the episode about how watching The Untouchables sort of transferred into watching Midnight Run because it was at that point you're like, I'm discovering Robert De Niro's career, and part of that, you know, was watching Midnight Run and then being blown away by how funny and different Charles Grodin was. So I went to the bookstore because I spent a lot of time at the bookstore, and I found this book. It was Charles Grodin's book. It had just come out. It was called "It Would Be So Nice If You Weren't Here," and I picked it up and I thought, let's see what this guy has to say. And what I found was this amazing book about what it's like to lose. And, you know, Charles Grodin's very dry sense of humor. It comes off as if he's a perpetual loser. And the book doesn't do anything to sway you from that idea. So he bounced around Hollywood. He did a lot of TV shows. And then he almost hit it big. He was offered the role that Dustin Hoffman took in The Graduate, which was a watershed movie. And he held out for more money, and he ultimately, they passed on him. And in hindsight, he says, I should have done it for free, because it made Dustin Hoffman a major player in Hollywood. But he persevered, and part of that perseverance really spoke to teenage me. Because it said, you don't have to know right after high school what you're supposed to do with your life. And so many other movies, you know, most of them are about graduating and getting that big job or going to college. And when I was nearing graduation, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I really didn't. I thought, I'll try college. I did. It didn't take. It didn't agree with me. I argued all day with my professors, and I just thought, I'm paying for this, so I didn't want to do it. And reading Grodin's book, he tried, and he tried, and he tried, and almost everything he did was a failure. But he worked steadily enough that he could call himself a working actor. And that appealed to me. That appealed to me a lot. I thought, gosh, I could do that. I could be a working actor if acting is defined by the way I define it, which is you're being paid to act. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So I took that to heart. And the other thing that I did was going through his book, he talked about a lot of his, you know, prominent movie roles and leading up to Midnight Run and beyond. I think there's even some stuff about Beethoven, because I got into it late. But I started to go back and watch almost every Charles Grodin movie I could get my hands on. And some of them are really rare to get. Some of them have never been released on DVD. These were all VHS tapes that I was tracking down. And they weren't easy to get. So I've got his IMDb page up here. I thought we'd go through a little bit of it. The first thing that he shows up on, again, he played a lot of cowboys and criminals on television. But his first big break was in Rosemary's Baby. And the problem is, this is a big movie. Rosemary's Baby was a big, massive horror hit. And the problem is that the character that he plays in it is the doctor who listens to Rosemary, Mia Farrow, and sides with her and has compassion for her, and then ultimately turns on her and delivers her to the Satan worshipers who want her baby. So here's the thing, even though he's great in it, people didn't like him outside of the film because of what he did in the movie. And the only thing I can equate that to is William Atherton. I was just talking the other day about William Atherton. He's, the guy in Die Hard, the guy in Ghostbusters, and he played an a-hole so well that I think people considered him an a-hole, even though he's probably a really nice guy. He just happens to be a great actor. So, Rosemary's Baby, man. And then he was in Catch-22. This is a Mike Nichols movie. Mike Nichols had just directed The Graduate. So he directed Catch-22. If you've never seen Catch-22, it's got a huge cast. It's a fantastic film. If you probably know the saying, oh, it's a Catch-22. I can't win either way. Catch-22 refers to fighter pilots in World War II. And I think it's World War II. It might be the Korean conflict. I'm not sure. But it refers to the idea that the only way to get out of combat flights is to convince the army that you're insane. And the only way to convince the army that you're insane is to willingly volunteer for more combat flights. So you can't win either way. You are in a Catch-22. It's a great movie. It is a dark, dark comedy, but it is great. Then he's in The Heartbreak Kid. This is a fantastic movie, but it's hard to watch. They remade it a couple years back with Ben Stiller, but I wouldn't, like everybody, I wouldn't bother with that. Nobody did. But the original by Elaine May, and he's doing all these movies in between really sound and really good theatrical work on the stage. But you got to do movies to get yourself out there and to make more money. So The Heartbreak Kid is about, he plays Lenny. He plays this guy who marries this woman, and he doesn't know everything about her. And that's the problem, because on his honeymoon, he realizes he doesn't love her. And she overdoes it on the first day of their honeymoon, and she gets sunburn all over her body. But she doesn't want his honeymoon to be ruined, so she insists that he go to the beach every day. And while he's out there, he falls in love with Sybil Shepherd. So there's a little Graduate stuff there where he runs away from his wife. And the scene in the restaurant where he breaks up with his wife of like 3 days is so hard to watch. And so I can't look away that it's why you go to the movies. It is so amazing. He is arguing with the waiter over pecan pie. He's trying to say to this woman in the gentlest way that she's got a life ahead of her and she's going to meet someone else. And when she finally realizes that he's breaking up with her on their honeymoon, she cannot believe it. And she starts crying. And it is truly hard to watch. It is fine acting by both of them. And here's the thing. Heartbreak Kid was a big hit at the time for a middle-of-the-road comedy. And he couldn't find any work afterwards. And when he asked his agent why, he said, well, everybody loved Heartbreak Kid, but they hated you in it because you were so mean to that woman. And he's like, wait a minute. This is a movie. It's just a movie. But this is how movies affect us and why they matter so much, because we take them to heart. And we believe in their reality. So he was off a couple of years, and then he makes a movie called 11 Harrow House. And this is 1974. This is a movie about a diamond heist. And it's him and Candice Bergen, and I believe John Houseman. And James Mason is in it too, I believe. And on paper, it's great. I couldn't find the movie for the longest time, so I instead bought the novel that it was based on. And basically, they robbed this diamond exchange with a giant vacuum. And it's very clever. It's one of those really fun heist movies. And the movie has zero charm. It's a by-the-numbers robbery. He's doing his best in it, but it was just not a good movie. And I felt really bad because I waited a long time to see 11 Harrow House. But the title of his book, It Would Be So Nice If You Weren't Here, comes from the making of 11 Harrow House. Him and Candice Bergen were in a castle in England filming a scene. They left the set and were waiting in a side room. And one of the women who runs the castle comes in and says, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Yeah, we're waiting for the movie to start up again so we can go film." And she said, "Oh, well, it would be so nice if you weren't here." And that became the title of his book. 2 more years later, he's in, of course, Dino De Laurentiis' King Kong. If you've ever seen this movie, this is Jeff Bridges. This is what's her name? I can't think of her name. I hate when I do that. And now Romo's screaming at the radio. Jessica Lange. And this is a big budget remake of King Kong. The poster is him straddling the World Trade Center. It's a big overblown mess of a movie. He plays the guy who exploits Kong. And at the end of the movie, he actually gets stepped on by King Kong. And he was doing it, and the director and Dino De Laurentiis, the producer, said, "You will run this way, run that way, Kong steps on you." And he's like, that foot weighs like 300 pounds. He's like, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's a movie." So he was really concerned he was going to be injured on the set of King Kong. And at the rap party, Dino De Laurentiis started talking about whether he wanted to be in the sequel or not. And he goes, "Dino, I'm dead. King Kong's dead. He falls off the building. There's no sequel." And De Laurentiis goes, "We'll make something up. It's the movies, kid." And you know what? 11 years later, they did make a sequel. Kong Lives with what's her name from Terminator, Linda Hamilton. So check it out. It's, they're both terrible. 1977, Thieves. I've never seen that. I don't know what that is. And then 1978, Heaven Can Wait. This is the big Warren Beatty movie where he dies and goes to heaven and comes back. And it's a sweet comedy. Warren Beatty doesn't make a lot of movies, so when Warren Beatty makes a movie, it's usually a pretty big deal. Heaven Can Wait was a big deal, and he was very lucky to have been in it. In the book, he says that. But very cute movie, very sweet movie. I would recommend it highly. It was remade with Chris Rock, if you can believe that. Let's see. Then, 1979, he's in a movie called Real Life. This is written and directed by Albert Brooks. This movie is so bizarre. I can't even describe to you how bizarre this movie is. Remember, this is 1979. This is a movie about Albert Brooks making a reality television show where he's going to find the most normal family in America, and he's going to follow them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and document their story. And Albert Brooks is playing a hyper version of himself who is such a Hollywood a-hole. It's a really brave thing to do, to make yourself into such an a-hole and to call the character, you. So it's really tough. Grodin plays the father of the Yeager family, which is the family that gets chosen to be on the show. They're followed around by these completely obtrusive, helmeted cameramen. It's completely ridiculous. And the plot of the movie is that nothing happens to the Yeagers. There's no story to follow. And Albert Brooks inserts himself into their life to make it more exciting. And it is such an expose on reality TV, movies, the truth. And by the end of the movie, spoiler alert, he sets fire to their house so he can have a Gone with the Wind ending. And oh my God, it's so funny and so bizarre. And it's one of my oddball, bizarre, guilty pleasures. Sunburn, 1979. This is a heist movie in like Acapulco, and it's him and Art Carney, I think, or Art Carney. It's one of those. It's a misfire. They thought it was going to do well. I think Farrah Fawcett's in it. It's a misfire. It doesn't do well. Seems Like Old Times. That's a great movie. That's Neil Simon. 1981. This is a movie I watched a lot. The Incredible Shrinking Woman with Lily Tomlin. He plays her husband. I watched this movie a lot. I even went to Universal Studios and played on the giant telephone that is featured in the movie. It's a funny movie. The Great Muppet Caper, 1981. He plays the guy who's behind it all, and he's dating Miss Piggy. And it's funny to see a guy of Charles Grodin's acting ability in a Muppet movie, because the Muppets exist in a world where you have to treat the Muppets as if they're real. And to him, Miss Piggy is another actress on the set. And that's why the Muppet movies work so well, because nobody is treating them like puppets or kid things. They're treating them like we're just making a movie, and it just happens to star Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy. And he keeps that great tradition going. I like The Great Muppet Caper quite a bit. It's a great movie. 1983, he did a TV movie, Charley's Aunt. And this is near and dear to my heart, because I did Charley's Aunt the play in high school, just a few years after this. He played Lord Fancourt Babberley, the guy who dresses up as Charley's aunt. I played Jack, the guy who makes Babberley dress up as the aunt, because it's a play of manners where I played a young man who's trying to make it with his girl. The problem is that women weren't allowed in the 1800s to visit young men without a chaperone. So they enlist their friend Babberley to dress up as Charley's aunt, it's Jack and Charley, so that the women can come over and no one will bat an eyelash. And it's a really funny play. It's one of the highlights of my high school career. I loved doing that show. It was the first big comedy that we did. Up to that point, we had only done musicals. And finally, because I can't sing, finally, we were going to do a play that I could show my acting chops in. And it was the big beginning of my acting career, basically, was doing Charley's Aunt. 1984, The Lonely Guy. This is a bizarre movie. Steve Martin is the star of it. I think Steve Martin wrote it. Steve Martin plays the lonely guy, and it's a guy that just cannot get a date. Here's the thing. I love Charles Grodin. I worship at the altar of Steve Martin. This is a hard movie to watch because in the 80s, I was the lonely guy. I could not get a date to save my life. And watching a movie about a guy who can't get a date to save his life is not escapism. It is not. It is, oh my God, this is my life on screen and I don't want to watch it. So, same year he was in The Woman in Red. This is the Gene Wilder movie with Kelly LeBrock. This is a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's, again, I always talk about it. It's one of those movies they don't make anymore. It's a comedy for adults. It's not a gross out comedy. It's a comedy of love and sex and marriage and relationships. And they don't make a lot of these anymore. And I just love, this is a great movie. Gene Wilder's out on the ledge. And Charles Grodin plays Warren. He has this standout scene in the movie where he plays, he's not blind in the movie, but he plays a blind guy in one scene so that they can show him driving a car. And it's just really funny. 1985, he did a movie called Movers and Shakers. This is a big part of the book because Paramount Pictures bought the rights to the book called The Joy of Sex, which is a sex manual. And they went to Charles Grodin, of all people, and said, we bought the title and we want to make a movie. Can you write a movie? So Grodin writes a movie about a bunch of middle-aged guys who have everything in the world except a sex life. So they have no joy of sex. And it was supposed to be this ironic movie title about middle-aged men and their problems. And Paramount said, this is nothing that we wanted. I think they even threatened, we're not even going to pay you, it's so bad. So instead, they made a goofball throwaway movie called The Joy of Sex. The only reason to even check it out, and I'm not advising that you do, is that Christopher Lloyd is in it. But Grodin took the script, The Joy of Sex, that he wrote, and turned it into Movers and Shakers, which is about Hollywood executives trying to make a movie about sex when they don't have a sex life themselves and no prospects. So he kept the tone of it and just changed the title. It stars Walter Matthau. It's got a great cameo by Steve Martin and Gilda Radner. I have seen this movie. I wouldn't recommend this movie. It's not very funny. The actors are all great in it. It's just, I have the same problem Paramount had with it. I just don't care about the characters, and that's a problem. But as far as the Charles Grodin journey that I was on, I had to watch it. Then he was in Last Resort. That's another one of those screwball sex comedies where he's doing his best to keep it, fresh and different. The cover art is funny because it's a big sexy girl in a bikini and she's holding a fruity margarita, and Grodin is in the margarita. And the tagline is Charles Grodin wishes this for you instead of him. And you're like, okay. But I remember the video box for that. 1987. He is in Ishtar. I don't know if anybody even knows Ishtar today. Nowadays if you go, oh, the movie bombed. Oh, how big of a bomb? Oh, it's like Howard the Duck big. But Howard the Duck didn't bomb as big as Ishtar did. This is Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman, Charles Grodin, directed by Elaine May. And for whatever reason, the budget just kept ballooning and ballooning on this movie. And it ran out of control so much that it became, like in the 70s, it was Heaven's Gate. And in the 80s, it was Ishtar. It was a symbol of Hollywood's excess, how people were overpaid, how they couldn't control their money. And the movie came out, and not only did it bomb, rightfully so, it's a terrible movie. It's a terrible movie. And I'm a Charles Grodin guy. I watched it wanting to love it, and it's terrible. Oh my God, is it terrible. So right after that, he did The Couch Trip. I enjoyed this movie. This is Dan Aykroyd, Walter Matthau. They play crazy people. Grodin's a supporting character in it. Pretty good movie. I would check out The Couch Trip. I know it's hard to find, as with a lot of these movies. You Can't Hurry Love. I think I saw that once or twice. I don't remember anything about it. I'm not sure what that is. I think it's a, oh my gosh, I know, it's one of those, you know what I mean? You look at it and all of a sudden it's the kid from V, and he's on a park bench, and the bench is up in the air so that the girl on the other end will slide into his arms. And it's about a guy who can't find love, and I think Grodin is just a supporting actor in it. And then all of that will change. 1988, Midnight Run, Jonathan Mardukas. For a guy who's had a pretty big career, this is a career-making role. He becomes an A-list actor based on the success of Midnight Run. And rightfully so. I fell in love with Midnight Run. I wanted to watch it a lot. It became side by side for a while with Back to the Future, because I had both of them on Laserdisc, and I would just watch them. I'd put them on when I did stuff and just, in the background. Cranium Command. He's the left brain of Cranium Command. That's at Walt Disney World, I believe. How about that? 1990, Taking Care of Business. This is, gosh, if you grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, Disney had a spin-off studio called Hollywood Pictures, and their logo was the Sphinx. And Michael Eisner had this creed that not every movie had to be a home run. You could hit singles and doubles and still stay in business. So Hollywood Pictures started buying up every conceivable script they could and then making them. Like putting them into production. A lot of studios buy scripts and then never make them. They just go on the pile. But Hollywood Pictures was making 5 or 6 movies a year for a while, which is unheard of. Maybe even more. And because their logo was the Sphinx, the word around Hollywood was, if it's a Sphinx, it stinks. And that's true to some degree. Some of them were bad. Some of them were middle of the road. Taking Care of Business is him and Jim Belushi. It was originally called Filofax. What a riveting title for a movie. But basically, Jim Belushi plays a con man who inadvertently gets Charles Grodin's day planner. Remember day planners? Before cell phones, before pagers, everything you kept in your day planner. And using, I'm laughing just thinking about it, using Charles Grodin's day planner, he's able to assume Charles Grodin's life and take over. Like, it's silly. John Delancey, who played Q, has a supporting role in it. So I've seen it a few times. It's not that great, but, it's not that bad. It's another one that I think is really hard to find. 1992, Beethoven. Need I say more? Ivan Reitman, giant St. Bernard dog movie with, what's his name? Dean Jones from the old Disney movies as the villain. Beethoven became a staple for children, and Charles Grodin wrote it for all that he could, and God bless him. He was the perfect foil for the dog, because in the movie you're supposed to love the dog and dislike the father. And Charles Grodin is easy to dislike when he's being smarmy. Right after that, he did Dave. I did a whole episode on Dave. You know how much I love the movie Dave. He's great in it. This whole place could be bugged. We could get in a lot of trouble. Trouble with who? With the government. I'm the government. I mean, it's just such a great movie. 1993, So I Married an Axe Murderer. The Mike Myers poetry movie. Famous really because Mike Myers played a bunch of characters or played his grandfather in the movie. His father, Hid, Dune, New. Look at the size of that boy's cranium. That's why the movie's got a following. It's a terrible movie. This is Mike Myers trying to escape the fame of Wayne's World by doing something different. And I don't think it was a big hit, but towards the end of the movie, he's trying to take Grodin's car. In the IMDb, he is commandeered driver. He doesn't even have a name, but he's like, I need to take your car, please now. And he goes, no. And he explains why he needs it, and Grodin just goes, no. And then he takes the car anyways. 1993 also, Heart and Souls. This is one of those movies that I am stunned nobody remembers. This is a big budget movie. Robert Downey Jr. plays a guy who, as a kid, has these ghosts who were killed in a bus accident. They attach themselves to this little kid, and he can see them. And then when he grows up, the ghosts decide, we need to leave this kid alone, and they disappear. But he's having a midlife crisis, so the ghosts reappear. And the ghosts decide, or they know, they can get to heaven if Robert Downey Jr. will help them fulfill what they need to do on Earth. That's a complicated script. It's a cute movie. Grodin's playing a likable guy, which is rare. It's a fun movie. This was Hollywood's reaction to Ghost. They thought people liked movies about ghosts and heart. So Heart and Souls has all of that. I would watch this today if I had it. Again, I don't have it. I don't know if it's even on DVD. I'd have to look. But not a bad film. This was followed up by Beethoven Second. So a year later, there's a sequel to Beethoven. Got to keep it going, right? Next year, 1994, he is in the movie Clifford. Have you seen Clifford? This stars him and Martin Short. Martin Short is playing a 10-year-old boy named Clifford. I can't even describe this movie. Roger Ebert put this in one of his worst movies ever file. I don't believe it's one of the worst movies ever. I do believe that it's a colossal misfire. Charles Grodin and Mary Steenburgen are in it. Martin Short plays Clifford, a kid who only wants to go to Dinosaur World. It's a theme park. But he's in the charge of Charles Grodin. There's a moment where Clifford makes a plane make an emergency landing to go to Dinosaur World. Like, he does everything terrible, and you really want to hurt him, right? There's a moment where Grodin, I think, is going to hurt him, and even though Martin Short's playing a kid, I think we're all okay with it because we've all been pushed to our limits by this character. It's notable because at the end of the movie, they eventually get to Dinosaur Theme Park, and the ride breaks down and attempts to kill Clifford. So if you're a theme park guy, you should check out Clifford. Again, this is a really hard movie to find, but it's worth it if you're into theme parks because it's just so bizarre. What a bizarre movie. Okay, so right after Clifford, there's another movie that is really hard to find called It Runs in the Family. This is a sequel to Christmas Story. I think I've talked about it on the show before. It was originally released as My Summer Story. It's directed by Bob Clark, the guy who directed the original. It is narrated by Gene Shepard, the guy who wrote and narrated the original. It has all the same elements of Christmas Story, except it's in the summer. A different cast. Mary Steenburgen plays the mom. Charles Grodin plays the dad. One of the Culkin kids plays plays Ralphie. It has the charm of the first movie, but again, its only crime is that it's not a Christmas Story. It's a different movie. Different vibe, made a decade later. I had a soft spot for it for a while. It is again, pretty hard to find. He did a movie. Okay, this is 1994. So at this point, Charles Grodin leaves the movies to do a talk show on MSNBC, The Charles Grodin Show. I never saw any of this from 94 until his show ended. I didn't have cable. We were living in Buena Park. We were a commercial zone, so we did not qualify for cable, and DirecTV wasn't a thing, so we were out of luck. Consequently, I didn't watch a lot of TV, almost zero television. So I didn't see any of those shows. I know that every show ended with him looking at the camera and saying, "Night, Mom." And then he shows up back in the movies 12 years later in 2006 in a movie called The X. I've seen this movie. I remember being shocked at how old he looked in the film. He does keep working. He has done quite a bit since then. He appeared on Law & Order, the Michael J. Fox show. If you remember that, boy, was that a bad show. And I love Michael J. Fox. He was on a show. He was on Louie. He's in the miniseries Madoff. And he's got The Private Life of a Modern Woman in post-production, which is going to be released next year. It doesn't say anything about it. I have no idea what this movie's even about. But it's Sienna Miller, Alec Baldwin, and Charles Grodin. So when I look back at that weird part of my life where I latched on to, of all things, Charles Grodin, it opened my eyes to a lot of other movies that I wouldn't normally have seen. And it made me appreciate the craft of acting. Because like I said, he did a lot of stage productions that were very well received. And every time those stage productions would close, he would, I mean, it's a slap in the face. It's a setback. But he would look at it as a chance to move on and to grow as a performer. And that really appealed to me. So Charles Grodin's always been one of those guys that I've looked up to. And here's the thing. I actually got to be in a movie with Charles Grodin. In between working at Spencer Gifts and right before I started at Knott's Berry Farm, I did extra work in the movies. And I only did things that I thought were appealing. Like I did Ed Wood because I knew Tim Burton was directing. And I got to see Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and the whole cast. I also appeared as an extra in Beethoven Second, because I knew it starred Charles Grodin. So I spent a whole day on the set at the Disney Ranch filming a carnival scene with Charles Grodin, Debbie Mazar, Chris Penn, and I stared at Charles Grodin for an entire day, and I watched the man work, and that fulfilled like a real big checking off the bucket list. I worked with Charles Grodin in a movie. You can't see me in the movie, doesn't matter. They paid me $20 extra to park my car in the parking lot of the carnival, so I made quite a bit of money that day, and they fed us well, and I got to watch him work. So that really was it was really cool. So I hope I haven't bored you with my Charles Grodin expose here. I love the man's work. I think he's a fantastic actor. I miss seeing him on the screen, but I know he's gotten pretty old, and he's got a lot of money. And if he wants to stay, he said at one point he likes to sit in a Barca Lounger, and it would take a lot of money or a good script to get him out of that Barca Lounger. And I respect that. I totally respect that. So thanks for enduring this extra episode tack on the Charles Grodin career. Thanks for tuning in. A big thanks and to my Patreon pledgers. You guys are so awesome. You make the show happen every month. The people on Patreon pledge, and I'm so humbled by that support. Thank you so much. The Tucker family is off to Comic-Con this month, hoping to do a preview episode and, of course, the after episode of what it was like. We love Comic-Con. I've also started a second podcast, so check out the Gemmer Collector Cast, GEMR, on SoundCloud. We're up to 4 or 5 episodes at this point. It's a lot of fun doing it. I interview people and talk about their collections. And if you know me, I love doing it. So check out the Gemmer Collector Cast, GEMR. You can also check out the Gemmer website at gemr.com. It's a social media site for collectors. I have a page on there where I am showcasing my Back to the Future collection. So check it out. Thanks for tuning in to this bonus episode. Tack on, extra, supplemental. If the episode's a motorcycle, this is the sidecar. I'm Jeff. I'm the voice. Thanks for listening. This is the second time I've had to say 91 reasons.
Yeah. This is love, missing her. When you don't care about her, when you don't care about anything. The bad part is coming, so enjoy the heartbreak while you can, for God's sakes. Pick up the dog poop, would you please? Lucky son of a bitch, I haven't had my heart broken since Marilyn walked out on me since I was 35 years old. What I would give to have that feeling again. I'm not really sure what your name is, but you may be the single most boring person I have ever met. No offense. I'm not dogging you. You don't fall down.